to welcome American conductor and chorus director of the Royal Opera House, William Spaulding, for this evening's Opera Insight. So just a bit of housekeeping as usual. We have 30 minutes of a Q&A and then 30 minutes of your questions. So if you have any, just pop them in the little chat box at the bottom. And for the time being, if you could just remain muted, just so we can prevent any audio interruptions, that would be wonderful. And thank you again for joining us today. So a little bit about William. Hello, William.
Hi there.
William was appointed as the chorus director of the Royal Opera Chorus at the start of the 2016-17 season. He was born in Washington and studied the piano at the University of Maryland and conducting at Vienna's University of Music and Performing Arts. He began his career in Germany and in 1997 was appointed Associate Chorus Master of the Vienna Volksoper. He went on to become Principal Chorus Master of the Liceu Barcelona for 5 years, before being appointed Principal Chorus Master and Kapellmeister of the Deutsche Oper Berlin. During his tenure, the Chorus of Deutsche Oper Berlin was named Chorus of the Year in the Opernwelt Awards, and in 2014 were nominated in the International Opera Awards. William has also worked with symphony choruses, including the MDR Leipzig Radio Choir, the RIAS Kammerchor, and at the Grant Park Music Festival in Chicago. As an orchestral and opera conductor, William's repertoire includes La Traviata, Carmen, and Nabucco, and Carmina Burana, Verdi's Requiem, Beethoven's Ninth Symphony, and Prélude à l'après-midi d'enfant, for orchestras and companies including Deutsche Oper Berlin, Vienna Volksoper, Mannheim National Theatre, and the Jerusalem Symphony Orchestra. Wow, thank you so much for joining us today, William. What a bio. We're so grateful to have you here with us. And I'll hand over to Izzy to ask the first question.
Fantastic, thank you very much. So obviously we're still in a pandemic. How have you found the lockdown during the pandemic? The Royal Opera House Chorus seems like a very tight-knit group, and it must have been very difficult not to be able to perform together. How have you found coping with that?
Yeah, well, you hit the nail on the head in that we're very tightly knit. You know, people depend on each other. You know, they depend on each other to coordinate on stage, to form the sound that they create collectively. They're friends. They you know, being in an opera chorus is the level of, I mean, many people spend more time with their colleagues than they do with their families, sadly. I mean, depending on the kind of family situation that they have. It is a very intense kind of, and a very special kind of collaboration. And to be robbed of that just from one day to the next. I mean, it was that Monday, I think the 16th or 17th of March, and there were these rumors, but, you know, we didn't really want to believe them, right? You know, and we've been in the final rehearsal stage for Yenufá. We had done 1 or 2 stage orchestras for Yenufá, and we were desperately trying the following day to get it on tape, to get a recording, a video recording of it, because it's a new production. You know, it's never been done before, and just to have it, you know, because we were already afraid that it wasn't going to get to the premiere or any kind of general rehearsal where you could have it all. And but sadly that never happened either. And just 1 minute I'm in the theater and it's all about rumors, and I went for a 20-minute walk around Covent Garden and entered by the stage door, and the sight that I saw told the whole story. It was people, it was, you know, an hour before the performance, but all sorts of musicians, chorus, everybody going out of the theater, not inside. And it was quite a, you know, it still is quite a you know, a rupture, an interruption of the story that we're telling. I mean, that's there, you know, obviously literature is just full of the significance and importance of narrative, and we're every day, you know, we're telling a story, we're creating a story, not just the stories of the operas that are dramatized then on stage and sung, but you know, our lives as, you know, creating the productions, being in rehearsal, collaborating with all the conductors and directors. You know, there's a history to it, and therefore a story. And to just have one story interrupted so suddenly and really without warning, you know, has been difficult. At first, you know, there was a lot of you know, a lot of joking around, and there was first few days, you know, seemed like an eternity. You know, I myself did sing-alongs on the block, because I have this thing. It's called GOS window sing. My idea. I live in this narrow street, and of course, chorus master, as I am, I see a narrow street with houses on, you know, close together. Everybody stick your heads out the window. We got a chorus. You know, I mean, that was what I saw, and I distributed a flyer to everyone. I had to copy. I was surprised how many it was. 70 people. I distributed. I have a copier here. Distributed it. I said, you know, these are the things we're doing, and I copied an English version of the Va Pensiero. At first, I wanted to do Italian. I figured, oh, come on, be serious. They're not gonna. And because of course, for us opera people, Italian, you know, you have to be able to. And the Va Pensiero, please, you know. But I found an English translation of it and distributed it, and yeah, and we sung it, and people did stick their heads out, and it wasn't everyone, but we did that, and then I also included "You'll Never Walk Alone," and I'm going a little off topic here, but just to conclude that part. An hour after we were finished, Channel 4 knocks on the door saying, "Could you do that again? We wanna use that as an underlay for the health tribute," because it happened just as fate would have it. I had no idea. It was a Thursday, and they wanted to. This was just a couple of hours before the 8 o'clock, you know, coordinated nationwide tribute to the health workers. And so I went and sung "You'll Never Walk Alone" then again at 8 o'clock, and yeah. As you can see, I'm hoarse ever since. But to the broader issue, you know, how people deal with it. You know, lots of people read, lots of people find what they can do online. You know, on Zoom, there are projects that you can do. It's very difficult to organize. I mean, maybe some of you saw the national anthem that we put together. I have to emphasize that the chorus instigated this. The chorus instigated the thing with the national anthem and asked me to do an arrangement of it. And so I did this arrangement, and I played it on my thing here. And anyway, and so it was all their project, putting it together. And you know, one person has got to put together the visuals, and then somebody else has got to take the track recorded by each individual singer and put it all together. I mean, don't ask me how they do it, but they did do that. And so there have been a few projects like that. And other than that, people are just longing to continue telling our story, as I like to say it. You know, people are longing to get back to some kind of normal, and with any luck, you know, now that the restrictions have been relaxed a little bit, so we're hoping that we'll be able to sing together very soon.
Well, fingers crossed. I think I saw an article today actually that they've just released an autumn season of some sort, so hopefully we'll all be able to get back to doing what we love sometime soon.
That's right. Yeah.
With it being such a community, and it's a great way via Zoom that they've managed to still make music together. And how do you feel they've adapted to this? I've seen that they've done a few recordings, you know, the Vaughan Williams Serenade to Music, and you've done
yes, right, yeah,
where they've been talking about what it's like to be in the chorus. So do you think they've adapted well to this, and it'll be a new way in the future? Do you think?
The two different questions. I mean, they've definitely reacted well, you know, each in his or her own way. Whether this is going to be I mean, certainly it's as a model for the future, you know, to perform Tannhäuser on 355 screens on Zoom. You know, obviously for real authentic opera people, you know, if it's got to be that, then we'll do that. But it's kind of obvious that you know, the novelty of that, of course, wears off after a certain time, you know, and I mean, I personally think that we will get back to normal. You know, it's just that it's one thing to go back to it. Well, it's like the parody. What's the parable? Not the parody. The parable of the lost son. You know, he goes away, comes back, and his father gives him everything. And the other one says, what the hell? I've been here the whole time. But it's different having come, even, you know, you've come back, but now you know where you are, you know, having taken that route. And so that's, I think very much what it's going to be like. I think we're going to appreciate, you know, what we do more. We're going to take things for granted less. We're going to just be thankful, you know. I mean, we are. I mean, Royal Opera House, believe me, we are thankful. But I think it will be a new normal. It will be, you know, we're going to perform Tannhäuser again. I have no doubt about that. And Meistersinger and Otello and double chorus this and triple antiphonical this and whatever. But it won't be the same, you know, in the sense that we're just kind of chugging out the normal stuff. You know, we're going to be very mindful of what we're in danger of losing, I think.
Absolutely, and I'll be very grateful for the first Tannhäuser back. Anyway, back to the sort of start of your career. What was your path into the industry after you graduated from Vienna? And yeah, how did you navigate through the industry?
Well, I did the best thing I could have done, which was go to a small theater. In Vienna, I had they had a young artists program there at the Staatsoper, and I did play for that for half a year. Luckily for me, I didn't know it at the time, but I'm very glad it was so. That luckily for me, that program was phased out just as that 1.5 year was over, because there was a change in directorship. So I took a job at not only a small theater, but actually the smallest theater in Germany. 299 seats in the auditorium. Now, this is the main stage. My address was Theaterplatz 1. And ever since then, I have been unable to live more than a short walk from the theater, and it's been a glorious life, I want to guarantee you. In London, that's much more difficult than other places, but we'll talk about that in a second. But yes, and I was a general factotum, you know, rehearsal pianist, but head of music, which meant that I had one other pianist under my in my team. But the thing is, the score of Zauberflöte is the same in Annaberg-Buchholz. That was the name of the town. It's the same as it is in Vienna or London. And you are you, and the score is the score, and Mozart is Mozart. Yeah, it sounds different there, but your interaction with the material is still real. It's every bit as real as it is when you're on a big stage or in a larger, you know, environment. And the greatest thing about going to a small house is you can make mistakes. And I'm happy to report that I made splendid, myriad, and extensive use of that characteristic of the small theater. But the thing is, those are things there are things you only do once, right? And you know, they're really, I mean, you get into a bigger place that it's very easy to you know, to make a mistake that can't be righted, it can't be corrected, you know. And so I started as a rehearsal pianist and conductor. I managed. It was a terrific arrangement. I of course, at the piano all day, you know, like 8 hours every day, you know, on rehearsals, solo coachings, or stage rehearsals. And I got to conduct every piece that came down the pike, as I say. I conducted every piece once, and so of course conducted, and always without rehearsal, especially the operettas, you know. Like Zauberflöte was the first thing that I did. And Mozart, of course, is difficult, but it's a different kind of difficult. You know, isn't so much push and pull. There's not so much, you know, fermatas and things where the orchestra and the company really need you, you know, to just go on, you know, in any manner, you know, let alone good. Yeah, and then of the operettas, Verdi, Rossini, did Barber Seville, 3 Mozarts, 2 or 3 Verdis, and then just like half a dozen operettas. And it's really the operettas that teach a certain kind of conducting, with the steady rubato. And of course, you're not setting the tempo. And either, you know, if you're setting the tempo, you know, it's not together. If you're listening to the singer and you're sure that he's with you, that they are with you, you know, then you're okay, you know. But anyway, that's the kind of thing you learn in that environment. And then I was there for 3 years, and then I went to another small place, a little bigger, called Chemnitz, very, very near there actually, and that was where I started with the chorus. I mean, I have to say, starting with the chorus, that started, you know, like when I was 2, because my father was a church organist, and you know, I was singing with the adult. I mean, he took me to church to sing with the adult choir, and he had a boys' choir. I wasn't allowed it there, but he had me sing with the adults, and so I learned choir singing in the alto section of my dad's choir. Yeah, but then you know, professionally, it was in Chemnitz when one day they were short of somebody, and they wanted me to do a rehearsal with the sopranos alone, and we're talking about like 6 or 7 singers, you know, small chorus, and the piece that I had to rehearse was "Hello, Dolly" in German. I used to be able to rattle off a few, you know, licks from that in German. I'm happy to report that I've successfully suppressed that. Yeah, and then things kind of developed from there, and I, like a year later, I had done my first production of the Barded Bride, also in German, but that's maybe a little less stylistically objectionable, you know, since, well, Czech, German, you know. Yeah, and I was basically in the chorus room every day, all the time. You know, the thing of being with the solo singers all the time was basically over then, because I was just kind of in the chorus. I was an assistant and just general factotum for the chorus the whole time. Yeah, and then I got a call from a friend in Vienna. They said they're looking for an associate chorus master. And so I went and auditioned and got the job. So basically, you know, it's and one of the things I wanted to talk about at some point, you know, is that you know, in the opera house, you know, just having that connection to all the different strands that make up the picture is just so valuable, and it makes any one area that you do try to, you know, want to concentrate on, then it just makes you better at it, you know, because you just understand the totality of everything better. And so, yeah, and then from then on, just opera chorus, opera chorus, and with the occasional conducting, which I also did in Vienna, also an operetta called Der Fidele Bauer. Conducted like 15 performances of that. Unforgettable experience.
We're going to ask you actually about what it must be like conducting orchestral music, but also conducting in the opera. And you were obviously a pianist before you became a conductor, so a great deal of versatility must be needed. I was wondering whether you could give us some advice to the potential conductors in the audience as to the skill set needed, and yeah, as you said, making those connections.
Yes, well, having been trained as a conductor, I mean, I always approached it, you know, I would look at a score, and it wasn't so much, you know, I always tried to maintain the conductor's frame of mind when approaching a score. I mean, a composer's really, but that's a different story. I mean, just for for the purposes of this. And so when I approach the chorus, I always tried to approach it from the standpoint that these are the sections that you have to conduct. And there's a really good reason for that, just in terms of the chorus, because they're not following you after, they're following the conductor, and you've got to prepare them for anything and everything the conductor might throw at them, any kind of way of beating. So it has to be clean. It's got to be, you know, it's got to be every bit up to the level of what they're going to, you know, be confronted with. I mean, that, you know, the conductors notice that right away, and they appreciate it just immensely, because in the opera, it's so different from you know, concert performance, or, you know, let alone an a cappella group. In the opera, there's just, you know, it's a miracle that the performance takes place at all, right? Because the number of things that can go wrong is infinite, right? And if you really think about it, it's just a damn miracle. It really is that it comes off. And because of that, conductors, I mean, they just got a call, you know, that the tenor is sick, is not coming to the stage orchestra. So that's and they've just been told that, but when he comes into the chorus room, right? And you know, he wants to know that the chorus is going to work. You know, that's there's a certain minimum. You know, I'm not saying that there's no such thing as nuance. I'm not saying there's no such thing as going deeper. There is, and there are, but it's an interminable, just a horrible burden to place on conductors when they, if they're nervous about the chorus, them not being nervous about the chorus, about, you know, basic intonation, about being together as a group, but also together with the orchestra. If you can free them from that, man, you've got friends for life. But to your question about, you know, training, it's really, I've thought about this quite a long, because I hope there are some conductors in amongst the auditors tonight, because I do have a message for you, and that is, if you're in your 20s, let's say, still, you know, it's your normal path, you know, is going to be, okay, either you're a genius, you step in front of the London Philharmonic, and boom, you know, the rest is history. Okay, that's great, you know, and that it does exist, obviously, and you know, more power to you. But the conventional path is going to be something involving the piano, accompanying the singers, working in a theater. And that of course is a tried and true way of learning the repertoire, of learning how the singers breathe, learning how to work with the singers and follow them and lead them at the same time. But the chorus is also a great way to learn a certain body of repertoire and learn the opera house, because it has a distinct difference between to the correpetitor, the repetitor, who one day gets a chance to conduct a rehearsal with the singers, with piano, is that as the chorus director, it is your body and your movements every day. And if you've got the training, if you know what real conducting, what's clean for the orchestra and what works for the orchestra, if you know that, then you can apply those standards to your chorus rehearsals, and you'll get so much practice. And of course, the art of preparing a chorus for the later stages, an opera chorus for the later stages of the production is so, you get so much repetition. You really know the piece well, and if you compare it to the correpetitor, I mean, yes, you're there all day. You've got a good overview of the piece, and you have more frequent interaction with the conductors themselves, but what you don't get is a whole lot of practice doing that, every day you can make mistakes there too. You make a mistake with the chorus, well, depending on what kind of mistake it is, it's not too bad, but that is the thing is, you have to remember, so to prepare the chorus, let's take even a small opera chorus part, like the case Macropolis, okay, it's like 4 lines of text set to music. You can turn 3 pages. That's the that's the chorus part. Still, okay, you've got to know the pronunciation, and well enough to teach it to others. So in other words, better than you really have to know it well. You have to know the characters, because before the chorus enters, the solo is gonna be singing a line, and when you prepare the opera chorus, you're not saying page 231, second line. No, it's what the soloist, or in rarer cases, the orchestra plays, what the soloist sings, because they're on the stage without the music, listening to what the soloist is saying. They give the lead in, and it's that they react to. So you've got to sing that stuff before the chorus enters, and not just one time. You're going to do, by the time you get to the stage rehearsals, you will have sung those parts 50, 80, 100 times, right? I've never taken the trouble to count. That number is pulled, a little bit, it's improvised a little bit, but and the thing is, even in those few lines that you have to sing before, after, and in between their interventions, you'd be surprised what insights, because you also have to explain it to the chorus. You've got to be able to answer questions. You've got to really have knowledge of the deeper, issues of character, the deeper, facets of the roles of the soloists, because the chorus are reacting to all that, and so you'd be surprised to what degree you're already on top of the piece from just preparing the chorus. Yes, there are duets and arias and overtures and stuff that they're not involved in, but you are, if you've done your job well, preparing the opera, and I spoke of a very small chorus part. I mean, imagine what it's like with Lohengrin. There's two scenes they're not in. I mean, with Lohengrin, I one time the conductor wasn't there, and they had an assistant or something on. This is somewhere else, not in London, and and the chorus specifically requested, okay, we want Herr Spaulding to do the rehearsal because because he knows how to breathe with us and all that. And the point is I'm trying to make is that, if you've done your job well and you want to conduct later, you've done your job well as an opera chorus master, you are, certainly the scenes where the chorus is in it, you can jump right in more or less. It might be a couple of instruments that you have to learn, just little cues that, to add to your little brain, but you are ready, and that's something that I feel is very, very much overlooked, because the general view of opera chorus and opera chorus masters is, it's the high degree of artistry, especially at larger houses, that the singers particularly bring to bear on what they do is overlooked, and it's underestimated, I have to say. But so to any conductors out there, please do consider that, 2 years of that, 2, even 5 years. I mean, that will, if you want real experience in actually conducting people, actually having something depend on whether whether it's clear or not, or whether your intentions are clear, then do consider that, because you really are on top of that repertoire that you do, and it's a great way to move on.
Fantastic. I think a lot of us here would emphasize how much we appreciate the chorus. I mean, there have been so many operas I've been to at the Royal Opera House where the chorus have had the largest round of applause, and it has been so appreciated. And I just wanted to ask, sort of following on from that, I suppose, what would you say to a young singer who might be thinking about going into a chorus, wanting to pursue it as an option for their career?
Yes, well, I can say that it's a wonderful life to get all movie quote on you. No, but it's the thing is that at your stage, there won't be a whole lot of encouragement for it, and for understandable reasons. Your teachers, it's incredibly important when you're training your voice to be able to control yourself. And of course, if you're singing in a chorus, that is, for the time that you're singing, in the group and performing, rather difficult, shall we say, and so especially, with very good reason, I'm adding, mentors and people in charge of your development as vocal artists have good reasons for rather discouraging too much chorus participation. But if I can just give you a kind of the typical profile of a successful auditioner, successful audition for the opera chorus, the typical profile will be a completed degree, in voice, solo voice, obviously, opera, couple of years of singing larger roles, in smaller venues, really learning what it's like to be a Rigoletto, on stage. Of course, talking about different kinds of venues, obviously, and a certain amount of solo work, obviously, but also, and I have to say that this is like the polar opposite, namely love for the chorus. You should be able to picture yourself, up there and in that rehearsal room and on that rehearsal stage, with the colleagues, people that have also studied like you have, and just being part of the team that makes, that forms such a vital part of the grand opera that we all love. And there's a chorus gene, there's a choral gene, there's no question about it. And if you have it, then by all means go for it, but don't forgo that's the thing, you don't have to be 22 to get into the opera course, certain amount of experience really is worthwhile. And I require, I give a certain set of choral passages. It has been at the Royal Opera, it's been only 6 chorus passages per voice group, but they're very carefully chosen. They represent I try to include all the languages in there. So it'd be French, Italian, English as well, Russian and German, of course. And if you ever do a chorus audition and you've got chorus passages, dynamics, articulation, and tempo. You've got to know the tempo. Don't see, like, you go in and sing your aria. Pianists, they got to go with you no matter what you do. Okay, but if you sing the chorus passages, you've got to know what to expect in terms of tempo, for example. And if it says piano and the next bar forte, I want to hear it. Don't ignore it. That is like the classical. I'm actually thinking of my next auditions as just giving, in addition to the regular things, just like one note with just various kinds of articulations and dynamic levels to see how, because I mean, I have to say in this country I'm really blessed. The level of musicianship and training and anything of the singers is just absolutely astounding. I mean, it just blows me over, every time. At the same time, you do need that for a chorus audition. It's fun. You have fun with your colleagues. Yes, there are times of where it where there are routine days, there are boring days and all that. But the thing is, you can stay in it a lot longer than most soloists stay in the game. The stakes are they're lower for you personally, in terms of your your public exposure maybe, but I guess the thing, the main point on that is that you can, if you want to, maintain your ideals, because your stage, you're studying all these great roles and admiring all the big name singers of our day and everything, and wondering if we can be like them and have that kind of a career, and many of you hopefully will go on to do that. But I mean, even there, I mean, I've had people with really successful, first few years of a career, and then a family comes along, and and they just decide that they want to be, that they can't, either that they can't take the travel, I mean, the travel thing with soloists is considerable. I mean, there are a lot of, it really, is a tremendous burden on relationships and families. So, lots of people decide to go into the chorus for that reason. But the thing is, you can keep on doing it. You're not, and if you have a little, you got a cold one day, you shouldn't go into if it's a bad cold, no, you shouldn't come in. But the thing is, you're the butter on your bread is not threatened by that. Is what I'm saying. So I can only encourage. I don't know if I've made the best possible case for it, but I mean, it's fun. Talk to people that do it. Next time we should bring along some of my colleagues, some of the singers from the chorus, and have them talk about what a great thing it is. Because the thing is, you get better over time. It's a small repertoire. I mean, it's very challenging at the beginning. you know, you got 25 opera chorus parts, and you wouldn't, most people, I even am astounded sometimes. Bohème, something I've done I don't know how many times, you know, just teaching it to someone for the first time. It's a lot of notes. It's a lot of music to learn, you know, and it's hard when you first go for it. But the thing is, you get better and better and better, and there's a real satisfaction in reaching a stage where you've got this huge repertoire, and you can just jump in and sing Simon Boccanegra at a moment's notice. You know, there are lots of, and the thing is, you, of course, you observe your idols and the great soloists and everything right up there next to you, and you're singing with them, collaborating with them. They remember you too, because they want to impress you. They do, because I've had that. I remember, I mean, invariably when we do Turandot, you know, it will be the scene where the Turandot sings in Questa Regia, and if it's a soprano that the chorus don't know, if she's someone new, if the chorus is there, she's gonna sing that baby out for all it's worth on the rehearsal stage with a you know, assistant conductor, no matter what. If the chorus is there, they want to impress you. You're one of them, and really you can look on social media and see what pleasure that the chorus people get in connecting with the soloists. You know, they'll talk and interact and have a great time, and the soloists know too. They know what a hard job and what an important job the opera chorus do. Sorry, I'm just going on and on, but one thing leads to another.
Thank you so much. That's very interesting. Yeah, it just seems like such an amazing. It's sort of varied. Yeah, it just seems like such a family and such an incredible opportunity to learn and perform incredible music. I mean, what a career! Eh? Very lucky. We should really move on now to our audience questions. So our first one is from Afra. Would you like to unmute yourself, Afra, and ask your question?
Hiya.
Hi.
Thank you so much. This has been amazing. I was wondering about kind of the contrast between working with professionals and really highly trained singers, in contrast to working with your neighbours during lockdown. What the kind of difference in technique was between rehearsing and performing with the two?
Yeah, it's a good question. You know, it's funny. The most important thing is to just remain, you know, just stay with yourself, because what you're getting, you know, they sing something and then you react to it, and as long as you're, you know, a genuine love for the music is at the center of everything you're saying to them, you know, you can't go wrong. And of course you will instinctively realize, you know, you don't be talking about, you know, just don't use jargon, you know, when you're talking about. Then always try to relate it to you know, to something in real life, you know. I mean, it's really, I just try to be, I just try not to leave that place, really, you know, whether I'm working with highly trained professionals, you know, or amateurs, or even not even people. The thing about the window sings, you know, in lockdown was that, you know, I fancied that I would just wave my arms, but they basically just kind of came out to watch me sing, you know, and I'm not really a singer, but I had to practice real quick, you know. I mean, the singing that I do is the singing that I referred to before, you know, singing the lines that the soloist has before the chorus enters, you know, and you do enough of that, and that, you know, you got enough, you get a lot of practice, you know. I mean, it's nothing you can perform, but it's, you know, it's listenable to. Yeah, I just maintain that human connection. That's the thing about singing, is it's, you know, cello, if you want, you can just sit there, and that's, you know, obviously they're they form a whole, you know, with the music they make, you know, with their body and the movements and the instrument and the music comes out is, you know, they have every bit of a connection. But the singer's voice, be the singer, a neighbor who last sang Happy Birthday 2 years ago to the uncle, or a highly trained, you know, soloist or a chorister from the Royal Opera, the instrument is part of the body. That makes the whole communication a different kind of one, because they relate to all kinds of just everything that makes you human, you know, can't possibly be out of place, you know? So that's the best I can do for that.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
We have a question from Federico. Would you like to ask that?
Yes, hi, thank you.
Federico.
Hi, how are you?
Muy bien. Español,
Así es,
catalán,
Argentina.
argentino, okay.
Yeah.
Muy bien. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I was wondering, how do you approach the work with a solo choir and with chorus from an opera? Is there any difference in the way you prepare yourself or you work with the chorus? I'm thinking especially between the difference that a solo choir has, or like the protagonism, and it has to work like a whole. This is still happening in the chorus with an opera, but everyone is like a different character in stage. Is there anything that changed your way of working with this?
Okay, you're saying, you're talking about the differences between the opera chorus and say a symphony chorus or an a cappella or a chorus.
Exactly.
Did I understand it correctly?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, that this is exactly what I was. One of the points I was making before is that yes, it is very, very different. You know, you don't have to go any farther than the fact that you're standing up there without the music. There's no. The first rehearsal is different. I try. I've been criticized, and I'm actually proud of this. Secretly, I've been criticized for not giving page numbers by the opera chorus, and I'm so proud of that because I don't, and I do. It's by design that I don't give page numbers to where we are. Why? Because they're not going page 2. You know, that's not where they're thinking. They're thinking somebody comes on stage and go, and then they're done with that. Then they go over here, and then she comes in and curses the sister and goes, oh! That's the way they think. That's the continuity. It's not page 1, page 2, page 20, and that is, you know, there are other differences too. The types of voices, you know, in an a cappella choir, you know, there are certain opera choruses that just don't, where you need trained opera soloists, or, you know, former opera soloists, trained voices. You know, you could not sing Turandot or Tannhäuser or whatever. You know, you can't do that with like, let's just say, a typical, you know, amateur a cappella group. You know, you get other qualities, sure, but it's the type of voices that you're dealing with, number one, and the fact that they're singing from memory is the main differences, you know. And of course, acting ability, that's also, that I have to say that's something I really take for granted. I keep forgetting this, because we've had situations where, you know, oh, just put him in, you know, oh, he'll find it. No, you got to have acted these scenes out, you know, over and over again, and you got to remember the choreography too. And so that's also a big difference between those two types of choirs.
Great, thank you.
Gracias por la pregunta, Federico. We now have...
Muy bien. Puedes hablar en español si quieres.
No hace falta, entiendo. I understand, thank you.
Muy bien.
Naomi, would you like to ask? Is it Naomi or Neve? Sorry, Neve's got a question. Is she there? If not, we can always ask it for her. I think her Wi-Fi's been playing up. What makes a successful chorus, and how much of that relies on working as a group?
I'll start with the second question. How much of it relies on working it as a group? Only about 99.97%, I would say. As regards the rest, you're fine. But it is everything. Thinking as a group. That is what I do. That is what I do with a group of singers like the Royal Opera. You give them anything, they read it off the page. There's no such thing as note banging. It doesn't exist. I mean, sure, some of them read better than others, but you're never for the umpteenth time trying to get them to correct a note. That things about notes and rhythms are solved in the first rehearsal, more or less. If they have to be solved at all. And it's all about getting them to listen to one another. And I went for so many years and hearing from just in different kinds of places and let's say just maybe less aware types of chorus singers, who really just dreamed of jumping in on Di Quella Pira one day, and every time that didn't happen, they went home sad. Again, I'm obviously not talking about London or Berlin, but the thing is, I've heard so much the comment of what do you mean sing? What do you mean love? I'm listening to him, can't even sing. What is no such thing? Yeah, that's the thing. I said it in different forms. I tried to be, kind of evasive or artful or put flowery language on it in getting to listen to each other in other places. But here it's just incredible. I say, well, okay, do it again, but please listen to one another. Or I would say one time I said, yeah, okay, we need to repeat that for intonation. It was just about to start, and someone said, yeah, is it flat? Is it sharp? I said, I can't answer that. It's gonna be a little bit different for everyone. And to be honest, I don't want to know who's doing what. And I don't have to know that as long as you just think about that a little bit once. Okay, he's like this. How are we? And it's just absolutely incredible the way my guys run with that and are thankful for it. Listening to one another and just being aware of the sound that the group as a whole is producing. So that was the second half. What was the first half of the question?
So what makes a successful chorus, and then it was what relies.
Homogeneity and differentiation. That is what makes a successful chorus. A homogeneous sound, rich, deep. People talk. I get into fights with directors sometimes. Sometimes I want greater numbers, for the chorus than they want, on stage, and they say, well, what? It's all piano, like the pre-scene in Aida. Well, it's all soft. Everybody will hear. It's no problem. Yeah, it's not about volume. It's about the depth of sound. You get a much richer sound, especially in piano, if you've got more singers. That the priest scene at the end of the first act of Aida is just or Tannhäuser we're talking about all night. The Pilgrims chorus in both acts are just magical and just irreplaceably lovely with enough singers. So.
Brilliant. Following on from that, we have a question from Laurie. Would you like to unmute yourself?
Hello. Yes. I was going to ask, how do you go about selecting a semi-chorus or any kind of reduced chorus? Is that done when people audition, or is that done per opera? How do you go about choosing that sort of thing?
By suffering greatly for having to choose. That's all I really have to say. It's a heart-wrenching process. Luckily, I don't have to do it too often, because if there's a work that requires fewer than our full number, and our full number is, by the way, much smaller than any major opera house of any. I mean, Scala is 90, Berlin is 78 and 84 respectively, the Met are 80, I don't know about Paris, I think it's like 90 as well, Vienna in the area of 90 as well, 48 regular choristers at the Royal Opera, 48, completely off the charts, you know. I mean, now the thing is, we do more with extra chorus than those other places, you know. We do almost everything, but the thing is, you augment the regular group by just as much as each individual work, you know, really demands. It's you know, it's you know, it's very difficult, and there are really no useful guidelines that I can give you on that, I have to say, because it's people are, you know, amateurs, or you know, an amateur chorus might have a different attitude, you know, but when this is your profession, you know, it's very easy to get the wrong idea, and yeah, you want to avoid that kind of thing as much as you can. What I was going to say is, when we have a smaller group, the ones who are in that's determined by a separate process. I don't really choose those people. Like, you know, if you're like Cenerentola is only whatever, you know, 20 men, and what do we have? Yenufa was 32, which is nowhere near enough. But anyway, or Susanna. Like we had Susanna and Yenufa at the same time, and the ones that weren't in the one were in the other, and so it worked out like that. But when you have something that's just a really small chorus, it doesn't. It's decided by a separate process. Let's just say, an administrative process.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for that question, Laurie. We have a question here from Helen. Now, would you like to unmute yourself, Helen?
Hello. Hi. Thank you so much for this. This has been incredible. I was just wondering, and this is probably a very big question and a bit more administrative than anything else, but I wondered, have you noticed any big differences between working with choruses and companies throughout Europe? Because I know you've been to Berlin and Vienna and Barcelona. Has there been any big differences between working there and working in the UK?
You know, each country does, you know, you do have the impression that it's you know, that the experiences differ, but I would actually say that most of the differences are due to the contracts that they have, because okay, south of the Alps, you know, like in Barcelona, I really learned how to deal with these really, it has to be said, you know, larger voices, you know, in all voice groups, and that was really probably the best schooling, you know, that I had, you know, to be able to, because most chorus directors, you know, they when they first approach it, you know, they want just like perfect intonation and just everything together and consonants together, and to have real opera voices and lots of them sitting there doesn't really fit into that typical pattern, if you know what I mean, and so Barcelona was a great school, because you have to, you can't change those voices. You can't change that. You have to, it is what it is, and you have to, you got to accept it, sing. That's the thing about singing, singing is the person in so many ways, the voice is the way the voice is. And I actually did the ceremony of carols with the ladies chorus in Barcelona. They loved it. And the audience loved it. I mean, present something like that, particularly in this country or the States. I mean, the traditions and just the general culture surrounding Britain and surrounding that type of singing, this is completely different. It would be a different listening experience. But to get back to the contracts, for instance, in London, people have got, long commutes, generally speaking, and that actually has an effect on the contract. In Germany, you do a rehearsal in the morning, there is a minimum of a 4-hour break between that rehearsal and another one. And if you get a performance in the evening, it's 5 hours. And if it's a big chorus opera, then it's 5.5 hours. So in other words, you always got split days, which for a Londoner is, that means that you're, excuse me, that means that you're, if you've got a 2-hour commute, you can it's hardly worth going home, and if you got that every day, that's, very difficult to say the least, So for that reason, you would want the rehearsals, you would want minimal break between the rehearsals, so that you can have, some portion of the day to go home or to stay at home, as the case may be. So a lot of the the experiences, are connected to the difference in the contract. In Vienna, they have a really interesting system where only you've got the chorus. Let's say it's 90 people. So in the chorus room, you've got all 90. You prepare whatever it is, but on stage, it's never more than 75% of the full chorus that's on stage. If the required number goes above that number, then that's going to be extra chorus. Now, what do the others do? They've got to be ready to jump in, and the point of all that is so that the numbers are always the same. So if you've got somebody, if you've got like 75, let's say, people in Magic Flute or whatever, then the director can always be sure that there are always 75 people on stage. Any rehearsal, any performance, they're musically prepared. They have to be there and watch the rehearsals and know the choreography and all that. In some cases, they get a little extra rehearsal, if it's complicated choreography. So yeah, the differences, I would say, are, most of them are connected to the contract.
Thank you very much. So I think we've just about come to the end of our time. We've run over by a couple of minutes, but we've just wanted to ask one final question, which was, what is your favourite opera chorus and why? I'm sure it'll be difficult to pick one, but give it a go.
Oh no, that's not fair. That's not fair. That's a human rights violation.
You can have 3.
I have to say that the Magic Flute, okay, is, is certainly one of my favorite operas, and it's because it's one of my favorite operas that it's my favorite, one of my favorite chorus operas, and the reason is just the breathtaking diversity of levels that it speaks on. the irresistible folksiness of Papageno, it just absolutely inescapable. How can you not fall in love with the guy and everything he sings, right? But at the same time, think of that chorale prelude of the two armed men, which is, as deep and as, intellectual and as satisfying on a challenging mental level as you'd want music to be, and the way he thinks and communicates to us on all those levels at the same time. I mean, the thing is, it's gratitude more than anything else, because that we need the Papageno lovers to come, and they're going to buy tickets for crying out loud. We need them. We need people to love opera on that general level. And if us smart guys can get some pleasure out of it too, and it's a win-win-win. I also have to mention Parsifal for very much the same reasons. I mean, it's very challenging, and when you get it right, you can get it wrong very easily, and when you get it right, it is sublime. It's just really a rare treat, and every time I do it, I mean, just zum letzte Liebesmale gerüstet Tag für Tag. What is that? Because gerüstet Tag für Tag. That's the high art, and to get them all to approach that second tetrachord with a certain sense of well, I always say just do a little diminuendo approaching that top note. I mean, just things like that. It's just easy to achieve with a really good chorus, and just immensely satisfying. The Meistersinger I mentioned beforehand, the chorale, the Prüge Fuge, Tannhäuser. If you can, especially you can get the gents chorus to be on stage, which I had in Berlin for both of the Pilgrims choruses. Just sublime effect you can get with that. I will say that Hollander is, well, never mind. Lohengrin is in many ways the funnest of all, because it's a huge amount to sing. It's by far the largest, if you don't count Rienzi, which is never done in an uncut version. But the uncut Lohengrin is just a humongous amount of music to sing, and so many different characters and styles. Otello, Ballo and Masquerade, not so much, but Nabucco, Traviata, Rigoletto, and Trovatore, and Faust, not to be forgotten. Don't let me go on, because I won't stop.
Great list. Notice the Wagner theme going there.
Yeah, well, I mean,
keying on.
Meistersinger, Parsifal, it's
So incredible.
Marriage of Figaro, those two little choruses, incredibly difficult. In a way, I love those two, because keeping it together and giving it, the instrumental that you guys got to sing Mozart arias and Mozart, or concert arias, for auditions. The instrumentalists have always got to do Mozart concerto. It's got to be on there. If Mozart wrote a concerto for your instrument, that's your audition piece, at least one of them. If pianists have got to put everybody. You know what? Chorus directors and choruses too, because that same combination of it sounds so easy, and yet it requires so much skill, so much attention, and so much experience, really, to get it right and have it sound natural but unassailable at the same time. Goes for Giovanni Lieti and Amanti Costanti, it goes for that, just like it does for the Prugu scene in Meistersinger. Truth.
Well, thank you very much. It's been an absolutely wonderful session. We've all enjoyed it very much. I'd like to thank our lovely audience for joining us today, and of course to your wonderful self for giving up your time to come and help out NSOS.
Yes, I enjoyed it too. I hope you got something out of it. Great, thank you. Lovely to meet you all.
I've already made 2 massive pages of notes here, if I'm speaking for myself. It's worth mentioning that we are actually running for the PRS Inspiration Awards. It's a new award this year. We'd be extremely grateful if any of the events we put on over lockdown, if you feel they've helped you in any way, if you've enjoyed them, we'd really appreciate a nomination. So thank you very much. That's all I have to add at the end, but just a massive thank you to William and to you all for joining, and I hope you all have a wonderful evening. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening. Bye-bye.